Hey everyone, I had a terrific conversation with my guest today, Sebastian Noelle. Sebastian is an extraordinary guitar player, lots of music out on his own. He's also the guitar player in Darcy Argue's Secret Society. We had a great conversation talking about specifically using polyrhythms as sort of a stepping off point maybe for creating compositions, which is really interesting. So I hope you like the conversation. Please check out his music down below, and if you like these interviews, like and subscribe, reach out and say hello. Hope you enjoy. Can you tell us where in Germany you're from, and how did you manage to make it here and stick it out for all these years?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So, I was born in Göttingen, which is in the north, but we moved around quite a lot. And I grew up in Würzburg, which is another small-ish city in northern Bavaria.
Hmm.
Everybody thinks Oktoberfest when they hear Bavaria and Munich and all of that, but this is actually the other end of Bavaria. So think of the Texas of Germany. It's quite big. It's in the south, it's conservative, but I'm from northern Bavaria. It's actually closer to Frankfurt. And I came to the States, I was 26 on a scholarship for to go to grad school to NEC. I had gone to undergrad in Germany in Mannheim, and my teacher kind of talked me into trying New York, and then I ended up in Boston because it was kind of too late for a lot of schools already. So, but I was happy and I was thrilled. I had never been to the States, and
Who are some of your other, you're studying with Gene, who are some of your other, I guess, teachers or mentors when you get to the States?
it was a great faculty at the time at NEC. It was John Abercrombie and Gene Bertoncini teaching guitar. Bob Moses was a very influential teacher in different ways, and Jerry Bergonzi and Bob Brookmeyer were my main teachers. It was just insane. It was Paul Bley, Fred Hirsch, Danilo Perez.
That's
So
right, yeah.
I kind of was like a kid in a candy store, and I wanted to study with, get some time with each of those monster musicians.
Yeah.
So
What did you study with Brookmeyer?
yeah, I studied with Brookmeyer. That was great. He only teaches you big band if you're willing to really do the work, which pretty much means giving up playing. Like he flat out asks you, "Are you willing to give up playing for to
Interesting.
be a writer?" And I didn't even think about it. I was like, I can't.
But, Bob never gave up playing.
A lot of people say that. Yeah, exactly. So he's not hard on you if you don't give up playing, but he says, I'm gonna teach you, and I'm gonna teach you composition too. But to get the most out of it, if you want to study big band, it's going to take a lot of time. I'm going to give you a lot of work. If you want to study just general compositional concepts, that's
Yeah.
fine. And we played duo, which was great. I still have those tapes somewhere. We just played standards, and he would just he we would just play. So if we were talking, it was mostly about composition because that's what I wanted to study with him. So it was a lot of white note exercises. He's
I've
he's
heard
known
about
for
this.
those. So
Yeah, what is
write
that?
you have to write pages and pages of just the C major scale melodies. So you can use any interval. Actually, first first couple of weeks you have to stay in one octave. You can't exceed one octave, and only C major, and you have to be as inventive as you can and as musical. You can, of course, use any different note values. Motivic development was a big thing. And then if he's happy, which he never is, so you would come in with something written, he would take his pen, he would cross half of it out, and he would usually put in some extra bars, which was something that was stuck with me. So usually what I would write was too dense. So it's like just make it okay to put it 2 bars rests here and another bar rest here. So that's I still remember that, and I still go over my compositions and often put in an extra bar just of nothing or a whole note. So he would do
The
that.
Brookmeyer bar.
Yeah, the Brookmeyer bar, and that would also result in odd length phrases, not always four. He hated 4-bar phrases.
Right.
Hated
Okay.
them. A lot of 3-bar, 5-bar, 7-bar phrases, 9-bar phrases, Who cares? Why does it have to be always 4 bars, 8 bars, 16
Right.
bars? And then you write in 2 octaves, but always, as he called them, white notes, a C major scale. And then he would do a lot of fourth exercises, so writing melodies over just fourths chords, because they're so forgiving and so open. That was the main thing in the motivic development. Just stay with an idea until you've completely exhausted it. He hated when you just play the melody and then somebody would solo. There's so much more you can get out of melody before you have somebody solo on it. So there's so many permutations, possibilities.
All right, I'm ready to go practice. Like that's yeah.
I still
That's
have
a
those
great
folders. I still
thing
look
to
at
be
them.
reminded of.
Yep.
You know.
2002. So I came to Boston 2000, and then 2002 I moved to New York. So exactly 20 years ago.
Breaking into the scene, how would you describe that to somebody?
You break into the scene by moving. Everybody's looking what's going on here. You just go to every session, you go to every gig that you can, and you force yourself to go up there and talk to somebody and it's like be awkward and get through it, and then eventually often it wasn't as bad as I dreaded it. Forced myself to do it, and afterwards I felt good about it, and a lot of good things came out of it, and I had the balls to ask some people and you want to have a gig that pays $100.
Yeah.
They would say yes when they could, and that's how it kind of happens. It's a good therapy too if you're a little. I'm not naturally like that. I did some things that I look at now and I'm thinking, wow, I did that. How did I end up playing with some of the people that I did? I just at some point you just get their number from somebody and you call them, and I have loved to do it more, but I also, there has to be a balance. You don't want to be perceived as a nuisance. I remember once I was so excited, somehow I got a hold of Adam Nussbaum's numbers, and I was just like, I got his number. I got to call him, and I called him, and I didn't realize it was past midnight or something. I didn't even. I was so out, and he was sleeping, and he picked up the phone. He's like, hello. I was like, oh shit. Sebastian, do you know what time it is? So, it's I shouldn't have done that. And then he said, call me in the morning. call me at 8 in the morning. It's like, that's when I'm sleeping. But
can we talk about your albums, your music?
Yeah.
4 albums.
Yeah.
They're all on Fresh Sound New Talent out of Barcelona, Spain. Shout out to Jordi Pujol.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about those albums, and I'm really interested also in like ones in yours in particular, kind of your evolution of how the music's evolved.
I met Javier Vercher, who's a great sax player from Spain, Valencia, I think. So I had him and Ben Street and Ari Honig and Donnie McCaslin, and we.
That's a killer band.
And still again I sort of cold called them. I don't know. I might have met all of them before, but never played with them. And we did. I think we even did a demo for Jordi, and Jordi he was like, "Yeah, sounds great. I'll put it out." And this is the demo. We did a demo for you so you can hear. And I thought that's how it's done. I thought you record deal.
Yeah.
So he was going to put a demo. I didn't want that. But then we went into the studio with Javier and Donnie. And again, like I said, 20 years. This was 2005, not quite 20 years. Still, right. I feel like my playing has evolved since then. I still like it in terms of the compositions. Actually, when I go back and listen to it, I'm always pleasantly surprised. But in my head, it's just so far back. It makes me uncomfortable because I know how I felt at the time, and I was not as mature as I feel like. Well, it's a normal thing.
I think it's totally normal, yeah. As you're looking back through your albums, do you have anything like guiding principles that you've noticed throughout these albums and all the music you've made?
I think so. I think so. It's always easier to see in other people. One thing I wanted to say about the first album that maybe a good way to put it is that I didn't feel like I had really arrived in New York, and my playing was still the way I was playing before New York. I think I hear that when I listen to that album, and then you come here and you just hear all these different people, and I wanted to really step up my rhythmic abilities and widen my horizons. It was taken from different sources and really worked on that. And then the album after that, I can hear that already, and then progressively more in the next ones. So the one after that was Koan, and that one I feel like I always leave a lot of space between recording my albums. So 5 years late. It's average 5 years. I don't know why people say it's a long time, but that's how it panned out. So yeah. 5 years later, I had digested some things I had seen on the New York scene, and mostly rhythmic, either whether it's you want to call it odd meter or polyrhythms or superimposed rhythm, or I like often pitting two rhythms against each other so they create a compound, I don't know if you want to, pleasant or meaningful compound rhythm, or something that I like listening to. So that's something that has developed. Melodically, I credit my family that I always had a natural sense of melody. I never really, it's hard to teach melody in the first place. And I never felt I needed to. I worked a lot on motivic playing, but when you write a tune and you write a melody that really represents what you hear, it's hard to guide someone. It's like you want the melody to really come from you. It's not like I hear great melodies from person and I want to take their melodic concept because that's so uniquely theirs. With rhythm, that's a different story. I feel like you can really develop something. Maybe this is just from my point of view. My dad always, at a very young age, did singing with us, even exercises at the piano, singing exercises, little ear training stuff. He didn't call it ear training. It was just singing. We sang Bach chorales always before dinner. It was like church family. We're church people. My dad's dream was always to sing 4-part Bach chorales before dinner. So that was the thing. He had this music stand made by a carpenter. It was insanely expensive, but it was this kind of like trunk of a tree with each way facing one music stand on the same trunk, and we would sit around it and sing.
So everybody had a little stand.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But it was the same stand with facing 4 directions. So we would either sing or we would play. I was playing cello, so I was play the bass, and then my sister violin, and there was always guitar, piano was always around. That I think gave me a good sense of melody. I was always making up melodies as a kid. That I trusted. I trust myself with melodies. I can always with something, and that paired with complex rhythms is something that I hear, and I've always liked that. It's something that I've naturally gravitate towards listening to, and I can name some players or composers that hit me when I felt like simpatico. I felt
who would those?
Guillermo Klein.
Oh, sure.
One of them. Miles Okazaki. They both have some tunes that with really simple melodies, but there's something rhythmically going on underneath, like you said. What was that? It's not what I thought it was. Then I wanted to figure out what it is. How is this, and how is this done? And then you find you find paths, you find ways to get there. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I remember many instances where I thought, oh, this is in my head, I had it all worked out. Oh, this is going to be great. And then I spent hours on it and it's just
No good.
couldn't believe that. I was, what? This is what it, I went through a phase where I listened to a lot to Steve Lehman, the alto player.
Oh, yeah.
And his groups, his compositions.
Yeah.
He often had ostinati, I guess,
Yeah.
on the bass that you couldn't really figure out what really the meter is or even what the pulse is. It was just different subdivisions and sometimes maybe quintuplets, sometimes triplets. Doesn't matter. It sounded organic, and I heard it, and I remember, oh man, I can't wait to get home and try and write something like that. And it was just turned out awful and like stiff. And this was a long time ago, and no, this is not it. He must have done it somehow different. People say you got to write 10 tunes to get one that's worthwhile keeping. So it's like that. It's often it doesn't yield the results and it never gets recorded or maybe played on a few sessions, and then it's just, I'm sure that's how it is. But
do you play drums at all to develop, or how do you go about like developing specifically rhythm? How do you get better at it?
Yeah, I practice drums. I've been playing. My brother's a drummer, so we always had a drum set, and I would always mess around with it. Now, where I live in the basement, there's a drum set. Actually, where I lived before, we always had a drum set in the basement. I was lucky in that respect. So I would work on stuff. I don't have any technique, but I do try to play the rhythms that I come up with for my tune. Also on the guitar, sometimes I use the guitar like a drum, and maybe 2 strings or 3 strings, and play a polyrhythm or simple
interesting
4/5, and that might be the beginning of something. So that's how I practice those. I recently got more into speaking and clapping, just away from the instrument, and reversing it. So when you clap the 4/5, let's say, for example, you count each one, you flip it around.
Can you demonstrate?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do the reverse, which for a long time I thought if I can do one of those, I have the rhythm. But then I realized you flip it around and suddenly you feel like you're starting from zero. Why is that? I don't know. I've read or heard different concepts that we feel from the bottom up in our body. So because of gravity, we feel the foundation is our feet, and everything else is superimposed on that. So the voice is the highest physically, is the furthest away from gravity. If you reverse it, it's harder. So if you have it makes sense also walking down the street. A lot of people practice like that. And the walking rhythm is your pulse, right? And what you speak on top of it is your superimposed rhythm. So that's natural. But then for some reason, reversing it was hard for me.
Well, you've written this tune that's 4/5.
Yes.
Kaonashi?
Kaonashi, yeah.
Kaonashi. Yeah. Who is Kaonashi?
Kaonashi is a character in a Japanese anime movie. Kao means face, nashi means no.
No face.
No face. Spirited Away is the English title of the movie, one of my favorite movies. And it takes place in an abandoned theme park in Japan that I've actually played at for 3 months, and they went bankrupt and was abandoned And in this movie, this ghost or this no-face character is roaming around in the ruins and following people, and whatever character the person they're following he takes on. So if it's a innocent young girl, it becomes this companion and just sits there and makes you feel like you have a companion. But if it's like an evil corporate millionaire trying to make a profit out of this theme park, then turns into monster. So it's a deep character, and also rooted in traditional Japanese storytelling. They have a lot of ghost stories. Anyway, so I love that character. It was just I saw that movie
and so that's where this tune comes from.
Yeah, exactly. So
cool.
It's a simple 5/4, or if you can do it, simple. If you can't do it, not so simple. But that's something that I had spent some time with. So then I was thinking, okay, what can I do with it? So if I leave out every other quarter note, suddenly I have 8/5. Instead of 4/5, I have 8 over a big 5. And that already sounded like something that's a little different. And then I was thinking, what else can I do with this? How about I alternate between 2 notes? That's actually something I often do when I have a basic rhythm. Let me just find 2 notes going back and forth between 2 notes in each voice. So I ended up with so the top voice as well as the bottom voice alternate between 2 notes. But it all came out from this basic 4.
Yeah. You know, one thing I've found is when there's complexity happening rhythmically, if you also have complexity kind of melodically or harmonically, it just becomes maybe too dense for the listener. But so I think that what's great about this is melodically it's simple. So it's just like some of your other pieces. It like draws you in with a great melody, but has this underlying complexity that's really sophisticated and interesting.
Well, thank you. It often comes out that way when I write, but I also, what you said about the density, I love listening to very dense, harmonic, and like it's just not me. It just doesn't come out that way. When I've tried to write like that, and I've listened to Nan Caro or Conlon Nan Caro or Schoenberg 12-tone music. I love listening to it, and I try to write like that, but the way it comes out for me is with more lyricism, melody, and the harmonies that I grew up with, that I gravitate to, and these complex rhythms.
That's interesting. You want to try playing this?
Let's play it.
All right.
Yeah.
Great tune. Wow. Oh, right.
I've written other tunes that don't start with a 4/5, maybe start with a 3/5. And then you end up with a, if you play every other note, you end up with a 6/5 or 5/6, and you change the notes. That tune, specific tune, I didn't use an ostinato. The notes constantly change. You have a different tune.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with Kaonashi other than the
Yeah.
concept is the same, but it's not, it doesn't sound the same. It's just also got that sort of two rhythms going on at the same time kind of thing. But I don't feel like it's redundant, or I was actually surprised to see that you have, like, every combination of rhythms yields a completely different vibe. So that's endless. So you can really,
Yeah, you're just changing a polyrhythm.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the notes and the form, of course, and
Right.
you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's one approach that I take.
Is there anything else we haven't covered or talked about that I don't know, that we should know about you or your music? I don't know.
I mean, this is kind of random, but just because I just finished this documentary, Michael Jordan documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that?
I've seen it. Yeah.
The Last Dance. It came out a couple years ago, but I never watched it. And just the being in the moment as improvisers is our greatest gift, best shot, and bread and butter, and most important thing.
I want to thank Sebastian for dropping by, sharing his thoughts. Please check out his music below, and if you like this, please like and subscribe. Love to hear from you, and hope to see you next time. Bye.